You're listening to the Run for Your Lives podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome to the show. I'm Daphne.
And I'm Pake.
And this is the Run for Your Lives podcast.
This episode is the 2012 American horror comedy film, The Cabin in the Woods, written and directed by Drew Goddard, released April 12th, 2012.
Ooh.
Yes.
A fun weekend at the old Buckner place. What could go wrong?
God, I love this movie so much. It's one of my absolute favorites. I love when we get to cover favorites on this podcast.
It always brings out a little extra energy, no matter whose favorite it is. I think when we cover one of yours, I get excited about it in a different way because I remember things about it that were awesome. And given that we had that really fun conversation last week about one of my favorites, Snakes on a Plane, really excited to get into this one. I forgot how much fun it was.
Oh, yeah. It's just wild. And yeah, I mean, Drew Goddard had that whole plan where he was just like, this is the kind of movie that we can just throw stuff at the wall and it makes sense. Where he just had like just anybody on the team who's just like, just give me anything that scares you and we'll make it happen.
It seems crazy though, if you think about it. Like all these things would happen or all these things would be in someone's head. Because it's kind of like a salad. Like some weird monster salad. You know, it's just, it's a lot.
Yeah.
It is a lot.
It's a love letter to horror cinema, for sure.
Yeah.
But it's also very original in its own way. Drew Goddard was very, knew exactly what he was doing. He was like, I want this to pay homage to a lot of the classics and things that people love. But he also said, if somebody came in and had never seen a horror movie before, they would also fully understand everything that was happening here. That they wouldn't be lost in the lore or, you know, all these Easter eggs are too much that, you know, you're not going to have fun if you don't know what it is. But if you are a huge fan of horror cinema, then there's going to be a lot of tasty treats hidden along for you. But it's for everybody.
Yeah, I think so. I think you're right because there were a lot of Easter eggs in it. However, you didn't have to know them all.
Yeah.
There were some that I read about after and I'm thinking, oh, you're right. I didn't realize that. But the whole thing was just a whole big bottle of fun the entire time. And I can't believe this was his first film. Like his first directing job was this movie. It's pretty crazy. He hasn't done a lot of directing since though. He's done mostly a little bit of TV, but he has done a lot of writing.
Yeah.
And I looked into it and there are some cool things. Like he was involved with the screenplay for The Martian and for World War Z, which are two of my movies that I really liked.
Mm-hmm.
And he also did a lot on Daredevil, the TV series.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it's pretty amazing that he started this way. And I hope he will get back in the director's chair at some point because I think he's got a fun vision.
Definitely. For sure.
We need more of that.
Love it. Yeah, like I said, it's a very fresh take. Like there's a lot of classic horror tropes and Easter eggs that if you love horror like we do, you'll pick up on it. But also,
absolutely.
It's such a fresh and unique take on the genre that nobody has ever done anything like what this movie is as well.
Yeah, no, they definitely haven't. Definitely have not.
All right, awesome. Well, I can't wait to kind of get in and talk about it. Before we really dive into characters and story and stuff, why don't you hit us with those fun behind-the-scenes bits?
I can do that. So, it was filmed in Vancouver, British Columbia. It's the first film directed by Drew Goddard, as we already mentioned. He had a co-writer for the script, and the screenplay was written in 3 days when he and his co-writer locked themselves in a hotel room to challenge themselves. They had both come off of failed film projects, and they wanted to do something fresh, something interesting, something fun, but something that was a bit of a challenge. Originally, it was planned for a release in early 2010, but it was shelved due to financial issues. It also was delayed due to the studio wanting to convert it to 3D, which it never was. Which I have to say,
I can't stand 3D movies, so I'm
if
glad
a
they
movie is shot to be 3D, it's better. When you've got a movie and you just convert pieces, it never works. Like, I've never seen it work, and I'm glad that they didn't bother.
Absolutely.
I wouldn't have gone to see it either. Not in 3D. Yeah. No.
If I ever have the choice to see a movie in 2D or 3D, I never do the 3D.
Yeah, no.
I don't know, like, it was a big thing when it first came out, like with Avatar and stuff back when that happened. And it was like, it's a gimmick. That's all it is to me. I don't know. Maybe there's still people out there who are listening right now who love the 3D movie experience, and I can't relate with you, but you know, you do you. But for me personally, just no, it is. I can't do it. I don't want it. I'm like, no, just it's too much of a weird gimmick to me, and it's just like, so I have to pay more money for this ticket. So I have to put these uncomfortable glasses on my face and just watch the same movie. But then, I don't know, the 3D effect isn't worth it to me. Like, I'm like,
no.
I just, I know I'm watching a movie. I don't need to be that immersed in it because I love movies and storytelling so much that I'm going to be immersed in it, whether you physically have to like make me feel like I am or not.
Absolutely. So, the budget for this film was $30 million and it grossed about $66.5 million, which I thought was decent. The movie itself was 95 minutes of popcorn eating fun. Pake, why don't you give us a synopsis for this film?
5 friends go for a break at a remote cabin where they get more than they bargained for, discovering the truth behind the cabin in the woods.
Ooh, that's very creepy.
All right. So with that, it's time to talk The Cabin in the Woods officially.
Yes, it is.
So excited. And I'm like jumping at the bit because I'm like, there's so many things I have in notes about all the monsters and the Easter eggs and the connections and this and that. But I guess we got to talk about the boring little human beings first. No, I'm kidding.
I know. You know that I'd rather go straight to the monsters. So let's dig into the characters a little bit. I don't feel like they were super deep characters. I thought they were 5 friends. They were kind of the stereotypical people, but I kind of liked them. I mean, I didn't dislike the characters.
Well, that's the point. Is they were supposed to be on the base level, kind of your trope, like horror movie, victim kids. That's what they're supposed to be. Now, they did use different ways to even add to those stereotypes, whether it's adding, switching out Jules' hair dye to turn her into the actual dumb ditzy blonde, or whatever chemicals they were using to make Kurt more aggressive and alpha. He's like, what is this alpha male bullshit? He's a sociology major. What is,
And she's pre-med. She's smart.
She's not stupid. Yeah.
But yet she's acting a little stupid. She's acting very ditzy and dancing around and making out with a wolf on the wall. Or a moose. If you're Marty. It's a moose.
Yeah, I love that moose. Which I don't even know if you have this in your notes, but a random thing, they put powdered sugar all over the tongue and teeth of that moose to make it
okay,
so that it to make it look like dust or whatever. But then that way Anna, what is her name? Anna Hendricks? No, not Hendricks. That's a different actress completely.
Anna Hutchison.
That's Hutchison. Yeah, it was an H. Yeah, but yeah, they put the powdered sugar and stuff on there, not just to make it look dusty and old, but for Anna Hutchison to also have a less bad time making out with the moose. I'm just gonna keep referring to it as a moose because it should be.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
they got real clever with some of the things too that they did, but we'll get to those characters a little bit later because We have a few others we have to get before we get to the lab. We have to get through a few others before we get to the folks at the lab or the control center.
Mm-hmm.
So, Dana's basically this college student that is having an affair with her professor. And the professor has dumped her via email or text message, which, okay. They get ready to go. They're going on this trip to Kurt's cousin's house. If someone invites you to go to their cousin's house for the weekend, don't go. You don't know what it is.
I don't think Kurt even has a cousin.
Oh gosh,
it's great. Just the little things. I love you can talk about those tropes because when we meet the group, you used to talk about Dana is this. She's kind of the prudish, smart one, but not really, because Holden falls under the scholar technically. But when we first see them, because she's kind of the prudish, I guess. Studied or whatever,
She's the virgin who isn't a virgin. She's the good girl.
We work with what we got.
Yes.
But yeah, Jules is like the ditzy blonde trope is what they're playing off of here. Her boyfriend Kurt is kind of the friendly, popular jock.
Yeah,
trope,
he was
who turns into the alpha male douchebag kind of jock trope, thanks to a little help from the control room. And then Holden's kind of, when we first see him, like the new guy in town.
Yeah.
Shy but sweet, and super hot. You gotta make that happen too. And they're trying to get him to connect with Dana. And then Marty. Oh, I love Marty so much. The loquacious intellectual stoner trope.
He's great. He's so great. And that huge coffee cup bong thing that he had. That was amazing. It's
bad that I want one of those so bad. I think they need to be a thing. But apparently it was like $5,000 or something
it was.
to actually build. Because it is fully, again, I own the DVD of this one too. Shock and awe. Wow, surprise. And so I watched a lot of behind the scenes stuff and I love they had Fran Kranz going through like his secret stash and he was showing like all of his marijuana paraphernalia for the movie, and he was going through his room in the cabin and like, well, this is this and this is this, and when he got to the bong, he was like, this thing is fully functional, and he like showed how it worked, and he like went through it, and he was just like, they could make a killing if they could actually like mass produce these and market it, but they would have to find a way to make it much cheaper.
Yeah, somehow I don't think people are going to fork out $5,000 for that contraption.
I might spend like $500 on something like that.
Oh my goodness.
But not $5,000.
No, God. Oh my God.
It's a little much.
Yeah, Marty's cool. My favorite character. I just loved him.
Mm-hmm.
So many quotes, so many one-liners, so many things. I mean, even in the beginning, he's like, I want to go someplace where they can't global position me. Because everything is, like, filed and recorded and blogged, and I'm just like, yeah, it is. They watch you, yeah.
Oh, yeah. We have Dana is kind of I wouldn't say leader of the group, because they all kind of just fit their tropes. But that's the whole purpose, is we'll get into, like, the system and the ritual and what all that is.
Oh, yeah.
It has to work that way. They have, like, perfectly picked this little group of friends to fill the tropes that they need for the sacrifice. And so they fit those roles really well. And then unfortunately I don't have a lot to say about Dana throughout most of the movie, because it kind of fits everybody else playing their sacrificial roles throughout the film, as she just has to suffer and watch and see how everything unfolds.
Yeah, definitely.
And then she plays her role much bigger in the end.
Oh, goodness. So much. Yeah. I don't feel like the characters were super deep, as in there's so much backstory or information. But I feel like there's a lot to talk about with regard to the story and how things drive along. We really can't, like, do our usual, I think, character arcs and things, because I don't know that there was really a huge arc. Not really.
Yeah.
I feel like it's more like story driven.
Yeah, I mean,
So
with Dana, I mean, the arc is her getting to the end and realizing what's going on, that she is the virgin of this part, which I love. She's like, me? The virgin? I love Sigourney Weaver's director. It's just
yeah.
perfect. Yeah, like I said it earlier, I kind of quoted it. She's like, we work with what we have.
Yes, and they did.
Yeah, it's close enough. It's close enough. I like something you said before we started recording, so I have to reiterate it, because it was fun. You said, for all we know, maybe Marty was the virgin and she was the fool. She was the one dating a college professor.
Yeah,
but...
I questioned that. Like, I'm thinking, and I'm like, I can't remember, because I hadn't seen this movie since it came out in theaters, because I went to see it at the theater.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm like, isn't it a twist that Marty is really the virgin and she's the fool? And it didn't turn out that way, but, it was one of those things where I was just trying to... I couldn't remember everything that happened. I just knew that people were... who was going to die and who would be there at the end. And that's all I remembered. So it was kind of getting to watch some of it, like, for the first time over. So I liked that.
Oh, yeah.
This movie was fun. There's a lot of silliness. There were a lot of cliches. There were a lot of tropes.
Yeah.
But it all worked so well together that you can't complain about it.
Oh, no. It's just, it's so masterfully pieced together.
Yeah.
And I think that is great. And so, yeah, Dana survives to the end. That's part of the ritual there, is that her death is optional. As long as she's the last one to die. If she does.
Mm-hmm.
And so when they realize that Marty had still survived, everything is out of whack, because they're partying while she's struggling against Matthew Buckner with his bear trap.
Yes.
Chain slinging. I don't know.
And the music is going, and there's a party, and that montage of music over it while she's struggling, and they're just partying and having such a great time. And Steve Hadley, who was played by the wonderful Bradley Whitford, they're just talking to him like he's this wonderful, guy.
Yeah.
They just talk to him like he has done all these amazing things, and I wish I could do what you do, and yeah, like treating him like he was just a superstar. And that made me laugh so hard. Oh my God. I'm just like, they were, like, the two of them, which we haven't broken into their characters yet, but they were like the epitome of, if you want something done right, do it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
They knew what to do and when to do it, and they went around and fixed things that weren't working, and they had a lot of cool toys at their disposal.
All right, Hadley and Sitterson are the MVPs of this movie for
me. They
are.
They were hilarious.
They're great. And you can't, even if you look at, like, the Cabin in the Woods, like, wiki, they're considered villains in the movie, but I don't think so.
I don't think so.
They're just doing their job.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those things where, it's like, yes, they're murdering people, and they're just doing their job. But literally, man, I'll jump to just my conclusion of the end of the movie itself. Is like, because I was, I'm absolutely sure Dana would have shot Marty at the end if it wasn't for the werewolf coming in and grabbing her. And honestly, this might be, unpopular with a lot of people, but I think of it from a realistic standpoint. I was like, she should have. Mm-hmm. Like, honestly, like, I don't think you can really, like, fully root for the fact that they survived, because you're like, okay, cool. They lived a couple extra minutes, and then they died with the whole planet instead of just them. So, maybe not the best ending for them or anyone.
I looked up what the body count was for this movie, and it's 6,873,741,154.
Yeah, which I guess was probably what the
population of
global population was at the time when that was released. Yeah.
Crazy. Yeah, you can't really cheer for... I loved Marty, though, and he brought so much happiness for me in this movie. I just laughed so hard at everything he said.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was great. Oh, yeah, speaking of that, Matthew Buckner showdown, when Marty comes in and whacks him with the bong cup and into the water.
Amazing.
I love when he just like comes back up out of the water. It was very Jason Voorhees.
Yeah.
Which, Cabin in the Woods, I mean, Friday the 13th.
Mm-hmm.
There's just such a connection there anyway. But, I mean, because the cabin itself is one of the biggest tropes.
Reminded me of Evil Dead.
Yeah, there's so many fun, like, tropes and stuff in this movie. And homages to different classic stuff. And that's definitely, I mean, a cabin in the woods is a big point in a lot of classics, like Evil Dead, Friday the 13th, Cabin Fever, Tucker and Dale versus Evil. Okay, maybe that's only a classic to me, but
I have to admit I've never seen that one.
Well, we're going to have to fix that.
I knew you were going to say that.
That movie is something special too. So we can make that fit. This we'll have to cover it sometime.
All right, I guess I look forward to it.
Yeah. But yeah. It was it's so good. But then I guess that's really all I have to say about Dana. I don't know, do you have anything else on her?
There was this really cool moment with her on the elevator when they were going down into the control center. But I almost want to leave it for later because it talks about the guy with the blades in his head, and I just feel like we have to talk about that later.
I have that exact same note, in that section.
Yeah,
so,
we have to talk about it later. I don't want, because I feel like a big part of this episode is going to be about the monsters that we saw or didn't see.
Absolutely.
And so let's put that in part 2 of the podcast. Right. We'll just keep going with characters.
Sounds good. Well, let's jump to Kurt and Jules.
Which I put them together.
Yeah, it works for me. Kurt, Chris Hemsworth. Thor, the god thunder from Asgard himself. And Thor actually came out in 2011, the year before this, so he was already well established in the MCU. People knew who he was. Not just the MCU, but, I mean, you star in an MCU movie as the titular character, and you're going to become just a huge deal anyway. So people knew Chris Hemsworth for sure at this point.
Yeah.
And so it was so cool and super crazy for him to get a role in a movie like this.
Yeah, he filmed this 2 years before Thor came out because of all the problems with the financing.
Yeah. So I guess that makes sense more than, that was able to it helps them push it through, so I guess it's not really, it's not really a crazy casting in that sense that, they kind of grabbed him right before the Thor explosion.
Yes.
But it helped with, seeing him big. And then it kind of helped maybe, subvert expectations for a lot of people when his character just kind of dies off unceremoniously at like a point halfway through the movie. You're like, go fly Thor, and oh no.
Thor go bye-bye down in the ravine. Oh,
Thor
that
go down the hole.
Fun. I loved when they were getting ready to get onto the RV, and he basically had to tell Jules that it was not an evacuation that they were going on because she was bringing so much luggage, and I'm thinking, yep, I can imagine that. Yeah. I'm someone who likes to bring not a lot of luggage when I go places, so I never can really understand why people travel with so much.
I can make an entire weekend, not an entire week, but like a 3 or 4 day thing in a different city where I'm on a plane and go somewhere. I can make that trip with just a backpack. Yeah. Just throw a couple changes of clothes overnight, like toiletries and stuff, and I'm good to go. Some chargers, stuff, whatever. I'm good with that.
I can't quite fit all my stuff in a backpack for a 4-day week. But I don't carry 6 or 7 pieces of luggage.
Yeah.
I try to fit it into one. Because usually I have camera equipment in another bag, and I have to count. I'm thinking, which bag does this go in? Does this go in to make it work? So I definitely wouldn't have it all the crazy way that she did, where it was like suitcases and bags, and just that is just asking for something to get lost. No, I have to keep everything organized the best that I can and know what I have with me. And but I did love that quote where he basically said we're going on a camping trip, not an evacuation.
Yep.
Or we're going to the cabin, not an evacuation. It just made me laugh so hard. I'm thinking, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not one to No, I'm not one to nitpick. No, I totally am. But one tiny little thing I noticed with this movie, and it's nothing, but I was like, that is weird. Why'd they do that? Is when they're talking about the books and that Dana is studying and stuff, which I love the quote, but I will talk about that. That's in quotes later. But after Jules runs off, Kurt gets a book from Dana's own bookshelf in her own room and tells her, oh, no, you should read this instead. And she looks at it all inquisitively like, oh, okay, great idea. Like, she's the one that bought that book. Who knows how long she owns it. It's been there. Like, obviously she would know about it. That just seemed like a weird thing to me.
Yeah,
he's like, why are you reading these?
Odd.
You should read. And he's like looking through her bookshelf like, this one is perfect. And it's like, well, I think she would know that if she would have bought it and put it on her bookshelf at some point in the past.
Well, I think, too, he's trying to help her with her man problem. With her professor, like maybe she can, attract his attention with it. And I'm thinking, no, just let it go. Yeah. Move on. You were going down a dead end road with that. Just let it go.
For sure. But I really like the character of Kurt, even though he kind of becomes like the douchey jock, like as Marty calls it, the alpha male bullshit. But that's not really his fault as much as it is the control room doing what they do. And so,
there's pheromones, and there's gas in the house, and so many different ways to control the kids. Yeah,
because we see him, who he really is. We see social media. That's not right. Sociology major. We see sociology major Kurt at the beginning, and he's funny and smart and really like quippy. And
yes.
I love that he seems like a really fun-loving, great guy. And unfortunately, just, the cabin and the system gets a hold of him and what it does.
Yeah. And cabin was its own character.
Yeah. And so we see the change that he goes through and everything. But even through those changes, I still really liked his character because he was very, like, brave and, like, ready to, like, lead the charge. And, like, here's what we're doing. Here's what, even if they're kind of forcing him to make some of those decisions, He's seems like he's in charge, and
he really cares about Jules. Like, he's devastated when that happens to her. He can't do anything because he's this big, strong, tough guy, and he can't save her. And he is just so like frantic because he can't do anything about it.
I mean, it doesn't stop him from trying. I still have in my notes and stuff. He's like, he just straight up shoulder checked old lady Buckner. That was nice.
Yes,
just plowed into her into the woods, and then later just clotheslines the shit out of Patience. So thought that was
great. Nice use of the word clothesline.
Yeah. So I appreciated those. Which I got to see behind the scenes, like the filming of that scene where he runs in, and it was just funny to see whoever stunt person they had as Patience at that time just on like a pulley system, and he just ran and he straight up did just like clothesline, but then they used the pulleys to like flip her around. It was cool.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
But yeah, it's Hemsworth. What do you expect?
Yeah.
But yeah, their little truth or dare stuff that kind of brings everything into focus, and what happens was fun. I love Jules just rocked that makeout session.
She did
with the moose. She did so good with it. I was like, no need to.
She did. They were paying close attention to her performance.
Yeah. It's like she went all in on it. I loved it. She just slowly walks by and like looks at it. Oh, who? Me? Like she got very into
I'm
it.
new
I thought
in
it
town.
was great.
How did you know? Yeah.
I liked her a lot too.
Yeah. She was fun.
She seemed like a very funny, fun person. Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. And then of course they run off after everything to go get frisky in the woods. And just the quick shot of all of the men in the facility just like staring at the screen
waiting
cracked me up so hard, where they're all just staring on bated breath like, ooh, what's gonna happen? And then when she's like, I'm chilly, and walks off, and
so they turn up the temperature because they can control anything, and so they turn up the temperature, and then he can't see because it's dark. I think it was him that said it was too dark, and then wow, there's a ray of light right there.
Yep.
Imagine
just
that.
turn up the lights a little bit.
Yeah.
Pheromone mists, get it. Got to crank up the heat a little bit.
Yeah.
More ways than one.
Yes. Yeah.
And then score. Bonus points for boobies. That's what they were. That's what
they
Hadley was really
wanted.
waiting for.
That's what they wanted. They got to win with that. Goodness.
But yeah. That scene goes from like funny and interesting to just like real sad because that's the first death of the movie.
Yes.
The first sacrifice is Jules, which that bear trap on a chain is just, it's unique and awesome, but damn, it's brutal.
I know. And then with the saw, like to chop her head off with a frickin' saw.
Yeah.
Like, ugh.
Again, that's another behind the scenes filming I got to watch on those, bonus stuff was that scene. And that was really cool, which, yeah, Anna Hutchison had a great time with that. She was so ecstatic to have this like fake like version of her own head that she could carry and like be covered in blood and like, which when they were interviewing her, it just threw me off so hard listening to her voice because she is very, very much from New Zealand.
Yes, she is.
And I was not expecting that accent, and it was like, whoa, that is not the Jules that I remember watching.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. She's different. Yeah.
But yeah.
I looked up to see what other things she had done and saw that she was from New Zealand, and I'm like, well, it's not that big a surprise because honestly, movies cast people all the time with different accents, and there were moments.
Yeah, well, Hemsworth is Australian, so
yes, and there were moments in the beginning where his Australian accent, came through a little bit, and I was like, all right,
yeah,
yes, you sound Australian with this word in the sentence that you just said.
Yeah. So R.I.P. Jules, but then. Kurt doesn't last much longer after that. I mean, he gets back to the cabin and saves Marty. And then as they kind of barricade themselves in, and he's like, we need to stick together, which of course Hadley and Sitterson.
No, we
Hadley
can't have that.
Sitterson are not going to have anything to do with that. They're like,
no,
I'll fix that. And he's like, never mind, we should split up and cover more ground. Oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah. No, it's not a great idea. I think Marty even questioned it, like, what? What are you talking about?
Right. There's some great moments where, like, just Kurt would just go along with when the cellar door opens in the first place. Oh, maybe the wind blew it open. Marty, in what kind of sense does that make?
In no sense does it make any sense at all.
Yeah. And then, so they, kind of hide in their own rooms, but then the Buckners are busting through windows and coming in anyway. So they go down into the basement to the black room, which they wanted to originally call it the dark room, and then they realized, no, that's where you develop photographs, so it's the black room instead.
Yes, that's true.
But yeah, so they go down in there, which for a place that it could have been any number of those monsters that we see in the facility, there's a lot of Buckner focus in this location.
Yes.
So it's kind of
lots of it.
Seems a little skewed that it would be them.
I don't know. Maybe they've got some special button that they press and it brings all their stuff in.
Yeah.
Like you press a button and it sets it all up.
It's like, I feel like maintenance is onto something if they're guessing and betting on the Buckners every time. Because it seems pretty fitted for them.
It's pretty easy, yeah. I thought it was funny, too, where Kurt was yelling, go, get in your rooms. And I'm like, no, don't.
Yeah.
Get in the same room together. Right. Why? This makes no sense. In any other horror movie would you say, go get in your own rooms? Like, you're supposed to stay together. It's just how it is.
Yeah.
But, no.
Yep. Marty finds the hidden cameras and is just freaking out. Like, what the fuck is this?
Puppeteers.
It's the puppeteers. But, they think that, oh no, he's onto us. But then Judah Buckner to the rescue.
Oh my God.
Takes him through the window and hauls him off, and they go over the little hill to never be seen again? Question mark.
Yes. That was...
But yeah, so in there in the basement, the black room, and they get out, and then they make the run for the RV, the Rambler, and they try to go through. And then I love, they're just like, the tunnel's supposed to have blown forever ago. What is going on? They almost escaped. They really were that close.
Yeah, and Sitterson runs and saves the day.
Which I'm assuming that the reason that the timing and everything on the tunnel didn't blow is because Marty was busy pulling out wires and playing with the wiring and stuff in the little area he was in.
Yes.
I think that's what shorted that out.
Yeah. He was just a he minored in he was going to be an electrician. So he was pulling wires here and there, connecting them. I don't know what he thought he was doing.
Yeah. But he somehow almost stopped the tunnel from blowing and managed to find an elevator. So good for Marty.
Yeah. You go, Marty. You just do it.
Yeah. But they got about halfway through the tunnel and it did blow, which, just you can see the explosives. It's like at that point, it's like they're not even trying to be inconspicuous anymore. These kids are going to know something is up. And, Dana at that point is like, Marty was right. Like, puppeteers. Doesn't matter where we go. She's talking to Holden about that. Like, it doesn't matter where we go. Doesn't matter what we do. It's like it's going to catch up to us because it's rigged, like the whole system.
Yeah. And she figures it out, too, that she's like, we picked our way to die.
Yeah.
Just
seeing Dana go through all that and find, and, figure everything out and see her put the pieces together is interesting. But yeah, before they realize, that it's all doomed, so when Kurt decides he's going to take the dirt bike off the back of the Rambler and make that jump over the ravine to go get help. And he 100% would have made that jump. He had the air. He had it was great. Would have been superhero right there. There's Thor in action.
Yeah.
But the puppeteers, man. They're not going to let it happen.
No. They're not. They
Thor
stopped
kind of
it.
Becomes Hawkeye. Only in the forced stretch of that Hawk hitting the same panel earlier in the movie. Didn't really work, but, I tried.
I wondered, too, when they ran to get in that Rambler, they didn't notice on the door was this big red blood handprint. I'm like,
oh, yeah. No,
I saw that, and I'm like, oh, this is not going to end well. But I forgot all about it. Even after seeing it, I'm like, I just didn't think about it. It's like, okay,
there's a Buckner on board.
Mm-hmm.
That a sticker they should have been put on the window.
Yes. Yes. Instead of baby on board, you'll put Buckner on board. Yes.
Yes. Holden found that out the hard way.
Oh, poor Holden. That's when I remembered that there was someone in there. I'm like, I forgot about that bloody handprint.
Yeah, he just was cut off mid-sentence, or cut through mid-sentence.
Yes.
I don't It was bad for him, which, I'm jumping to Holden because I literally have one other note about him. Then we can talk. Because the best thing, I loved his awkward conversation between him and Dana. I thought he was a pretty great guy. I mean, pretty good guy as well. I mean, he dealt with the normal kind of just guy stuff of he's struggling with watching her in the mirror. He's like, this is happening. I kind of really want to watch, but I should tell her, but this is kind of nice, but okay, no, I need to tell her. And I'm glad that wins out.
Me too.
But I did like the way that he admits to her that he was thinking about it. That whole, I was having a real internal struggle. Not to tell you, he was shouting on both sides. Blood was spilled.
Yes.
I was like, that's pretty cute and smooth. I appreciate him using that. But then Dana kind of ruined it. Oh, you're bleeding internally? Because he's like, oh, so very bad. And Jules is pre-med, so you should probably talk to her. It's like, oh God, Dana, come on.
But that gave us that critical information about Jules that I didn't know.
Yeah.
I didn't know she was pre-med. And then I'm thinking, why is she acting like such a ditz?
Yeah.
I really liked, though, that once he figured out that glass was there, that he told her about it and they swapped rooms, and then poor Dana tries to put the painting back up so she's not looking through, and realizes the painting is much worse than anything she could see on the other side, even though I think she really wanted to see what was going on the other side.
Oh yeah, she immediately has the same struggle when she gets to
It's
the
like,
other side,
oh,
watching
yeah.
him undress, and she's like, "Okay, I get it."
Yeah.
Yeah. So Holden, not here for long, but
No.
will be in our hearts
No.
forever.
Yeah, it's interesting because Jesse Williams, who played Holden, I think he filmed this around the same time he was joining Grey's Anatomy, which is a show.
Oh, he's okay. That makes sense because I was like, "Why is this guy such a hunk? He has no, he has no right to be this good looking." And I was like, "Oh, he's Grey's Anatomy cast. Okay, nope, that makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah, nope.
Yeah, and he's still, I think he's leaving the show this year. So he's been
wow.
on that show for like 13 years, so.
Yeah, no, I'll admit I went on a little deep dive. I was like, okay, who's this guy? I'm
Uh-huh.
interested in like, like no, he's in the game Detroit Become Human,
Yes.
which I have not played, but he's like one of the main androids. I was like, I like him. Great actor.
Yeah.
You have to check it out.
I've seen that one. I don't play, but I've seen that one played. So
Yeah.
wasn't that big of a surprise. Not too much. And I knew he was on Grey's Anatomy. Again, this movie was shelved for a couple years, so they filmed it, him and Chris Hemsworth, and then went on to do other things. And then this is kind of like a side. Oh, hello, here's a movie that we were both in. Watch it.
Yeah. So there's not a lot on him, but like I said, not here for long, but in our hearts forever.
Yes.
Yes. And then Marty is really the last of the 5 that needs to be talked about. And
yeah, oh my goodness. I could go on for half an hour about Marty.
Oh, he's just... Yep, I mean, it's one of those, like, you can tell, like, when we're watching a movie, it's like, no, this is going to be our favorite character. Like, it's usually the comic relief, and it's usually the one with the best one-liners. And
always.
It's just who we love. And, again, I need to also see what other stuff Fran Kranz has
Not
done.
much.
Because
I
he
wish
was
he had
also
done more.
awesome, and I like him a lot, too.
I wish he had done more. I loved it right from the beginning when he drives up with that huge bong cup. Yeah. But also when they're driving up the mountain or to get to the cabin and they stop to get gas.
Oh, there's some great stuff in there. But did you notice that whenever he pulls up by Dana's house before they leave, and he does the whole making sure that he locks the door and he checks it twice?
Yes.
But the window's down.
Window's down. I don't know why. Like, what do you think is going to happen?
I was like, that's hilarious.
Yeah. When they stop to get gas on the way to the cabin, they look at the pumps, and the pumps are kind of really old school. And Kurt's trying to figure out, well, it doesn't have a credit card slot. I don't really know what to do. And then Marty's like, I don't think it knows about money. I think it's barter gas. And you have to trade. And then he kind of gets into an argument with the guy, Mordecai, who's basically, they call him the Harbinger. He gets in an argument because Mordecai calls Jules a tramp, or what was it? A whore. The whore.
The whore, because that's her title for the ritual, and he is very invested in this ritual.
Yes, he is. So he does that, and they hold Kurt back because he wants to go and fight. And they're on their way out, and he says, well, good luck with your business, man. I heard the railroad is coming through here real soon. There'll be paved roads, blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, his just quippy greatness. Yeah, because even the same guy, because he's talking to, he's like, I've been here since the war. And Jules, what war? He's like, you know damn well what war. He's like, oh, is it the one where the guys were in blue, some in gray, brother fighting against brother?
Are you sassing me, boy? Oh, my God. That guy I saw, I recently watched the new Wrong Turn.
Mm-hmm.
He plays a real strange one on that, too, who ends up being a decent person, but... Yeah, same strange man vibe that comes out in that.
Yeah, but then I love Marty, as incredibly high as he is the entire movie. He's the only one that realizes that things are off and sees through stuff.
Yes!
And that is because, as I found out a little in more detail watching behind the scenes and stuff, that yes, they laced his stash to
Mhm.
like make him, you know, kind of fall in line like everybody else with the chemicals and stuff. But he brought his secret stash.
Yes, and it made him immune from the
Yes,
stash,
yeah.
which is great. Of course,
And
he'd
then
have
again, that
secret stash.
behind the scenes like video of him going through everything because he was like, and this is my secret stash,
Mhm.
which I don't tell my secret stash about because it would get jealous.
Yes. Yes, not a surprise. So crazy. Oh, goodness. And when he's fumbling around with the wires in his room because everything is like the lamp, I think the lamp falls over and he sees all the wires and he's like, I'm on a reality TV show. My parents are going to think I'm such a burnout. And I'm like, oh my goodness.
Yep.
You got a lot more to worry about, Marty, than that.
Yeah. But then, yeah, he's the one hearing, because I guess they're piping in like their voices. They're able to talk to him, but like I guess whatever things that they've affected them with have blocked that out from them really registering it.
Yeah.
Except for Marty, he's hearing them when they're whispering, "Oh, do this. Oh, do that." And then
he's like,
so no. He was like, "Go for a walk." And he's like, "Who's talking?" And then I love how he's like, you know, "I want to go for a walk." And he's like, "I'm not going to pay any attention to you. I'm not listening. I'm going to go for a walk." Like,
it's like, no, that's the subliminal messaging, and it is working. Yeah. No, Marty, do not go for a walk.
Mm-hmm.
It was
He
great.
still goes for a walk, and I love his husband bulge throwback as he walks past Dana and Holden on the couch. He's got a husband bulge.
Oh, goodness.
Which is just a terrible visual brought to us by the Diary of Patience Buckner.
Yes. Oh, that diary. Yeah.
He goes outside and realizes there are no stars.
Yeah.
And that's a big giveaway. You'd think they would have invested a little bit into that, but I guess at this point in the system, nobody should be looking up at the sky anyway. They should be too busy dying.
Yes. And Sitterson and Hadley, they can't do everything. Someone else has to be responsible for stars and other things. I mean, any fool would know when Jules and Kurt were out in the woods, air quotes. It didn't look like a real outdoor set anyway, and it wasn't.
Yeah.
It did look like they were inside and someone put some moss on the ground and said, here we are, we're in the forest. No, you're not.
Yeah. Yeah, which they did film in an actual, like, woods that they built a full cabin in Canada. But then they also shot a lot of stuff on, like, a soundstage with a fake forest built and stuff, too.
Yes.
They kind of bounced between both.
Well, that was for sure a fake forest.
Yeah.
That was not a problem. Yeah, that was fake.
But yeah.
Pretty fake. When the pheromones come up through the moss in the ground, it's like, yep, okay. Yeah. I feel like this is like the Truman Show crossed with the Evil Dead.
Yeah. I like that. That's a really good combination for it. But yeah, so we see that when we thought Marty had died from being pulled over the hill by Judah Buckner, that they fell into like the grave spot where the monsters are sent up from downstairs in the facility.
Yeah.
And so then he had to take care of Judah himself there, and now he has figured out that there's an elevator, and so he goes to find Dana or whoever's left, which just ends up being Dana, to take them down there and show them what he had found.
Yes. It's quite interesting, too, when he takes Dana to that elevator.
Stupid zombie arm.
Stupid zombie arm. And he's trying to work on getting the elevator working, and Dana's just looking at this dismembered body on the ground, and he said, yeah, I had to dismember that guy with a trowel. What have you been up to?
What have you been up to?
Yeah, Marty, we all wonder.
But but the zombie arm came back to help later on.
Of course it did.
Scared the guard enough for them to get the gun off of him and knock him out. Good work, zombie arm.
Yes. Definitely.
So I have no more notes on the 5.
Me either. I feel like we can jump to the lab. I'm calling it a lab. It's kind of really the control center.
It's the facility.
The facility.
Which is the U.S. part of the organization, capital O.
Yes.
Which is what does everything. And then, the control room is kind of where Hadley and Sitterson are at.
Yeah.
And I love them, especially Hadley, because holy crap, Bradley Whitford. If it wasn't for his voice, I wouldn't have even recognized him right off, because I've been binging through Handmaid's Tale, which you are covering on House Podcastica, as we've talked about lately. And so I've been watching through all of that, and so I'm just I'm so used to seeing him with the gray hair and the beard as Commander Lawrence. And so I was like, he just looks so much younger and different. I was like, that is Bradley freaking Whitford.
It is.
Oh my God.
Remember we saw him not that long ago because we did Godzilla, King of the Monsters, and he was in that, I believe. Yeah. So he does these roles real well. I mean, I've seen him be a real
he's more of what I've seen him in is being a comedic treasure.
Yes. He was honestly awesome.
Godzilla. Handmaid's is kind of like the outlier for him. He's not usually these really dark, complex, dramatic roles.
Yeah.
He's a great comedic actor.
Yeah. He was in Get Out also.
Mm-hmm.
And played a real dark character there.
Yeah.
With Commander Lawrence, for me, he's just really complex.
Definitely.
You just don't know. One minute you like him, the next minute you don't, and you're just confused as to what his real purpose is or what his end game is, so it makes it difficult. In this one, he was just, I'm at work. It sounded like his wife was going through in vitro, or they were trying to have a baby, or something was going on. And he really wasn't too into it. But he's real into holding polls for what underground evil is going to wreak havoc on the participants in whichever ritual they're doing.
Yeah. Then other comedic stuff. I mean, he plays Jake's dad in Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Oh.
Andy Samberg's character.
I've seen some episodes of that. I find that show really funny. But
it's hilarious. It's one of my favorites. So he is great in Brooklyn Nine-Nine. And then also he had a very short-lived 2019 to 2021 season show on, I'm looking it up to be sure. I think it was an NBC show, but I want to be sure. Yes, NBC. It's called Perfect Harmony. And I watched it.
Was it about the choir, the show choir?
Yeah.
Okay.
I watched it with Riley because he loves music a lot. And so it was one of the shows we watched the one season. It got canceled after that one season. And I kind of figured it would. But I mean, the cast, because Anna Camp and Rizwan Manji, it was great. I mean, he just plays this super liberal atheist guy who goes to this small southern town to bury his wife, on her last wishes to be buried in her old hometown in the old church that she grew up in, and somehow winds up being the choir director for the church, and helps them battle the church choir competition against the big mega church down the street, which the mega church pastor is John Carroll Lynch.
Oh,
and he's incredible. So so again,
wow. Okay.
Whitford can play some really great sitcom comedy roles and stuff too. Yeah.
Yeah, and then he can do things like The West Wing.
Yeah.
Or Handmaid's Tale. Crazy. And Richard Jenkins, who played Gary Sitterson, he's been in a ton of stuff. The first thing I noticed him in was a show called 6 Feet Under. Actually played the dad who appeared in the show, and I won't spoil anything. For those of you who have not seen 6 Feet Under, that is something you should rectify as soon as possible. It's a wonderful series. Michael C. Hall is in it.
I know. I still haven't seen it, but it's in my list because Dexter was one of my favorite shows of all time. I've seen Michael C. Hall in person on Broadway. That was really cool.
That That's a rabbit hole we're
But
going to
yeah.
have to go down another time.
Yeah. Yeah. Him in a play with Marissa Tomei and
Oh, wow.
Toni Collette. Yeah. And Tracy Letts. It was awesome.
Oh, wow.
It was really fun. Just a limited little thing. But yeah, so I need to check out 6 Feet Under for sure.
Yeah, you do. It's so good. So good.
Yeah. Richard Jenkins, like you said, he's been
in a lot of
many
different things.
Oh, yeah. He was in Kong Skull Island. We also covered.
Yes, he was. My favorite of the Kong movies. The Kong and Godzilla movies. It's my favorite.
So we cover enough movies and our Run for Your Lives universe starts melding together.
Yes. It's cool to be able to talk about the actors in varying roles because sometimes they are so different that it just gives you a different perspective. And I really like that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, but back to Hadley and Sitterson and The Cabin in the Woods.
Yes.
Oh, go on our little actor tangents. I can do that a lot.
Can't help it. It happens. You guys know that by now. This is episode number 41, so you guys should know by now. Sometimes we go down those little tangents, and it's okay. We always return to the road. Unless, of course, there's a roadblock, which we haven't encountered, or a cave-in under a bridge. Mm-hmm. No, we haven't encountered that. That was what was happening in this movie.
Yeah. But if we do come across one of those, maybe we'll have to break out the dirt bike and hope for the best.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. But in the control room, we do get a few of the last names.
Yes.
Of our characters, which I thought was interesting. We get, because it's Dana Polk and Holden McRae.
Yes.
And then Jules Loudon.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all I have on here. I don't know if they ever mentioned Kurt or Marty's last names.
No, I don't think that they did.
Yeah. But I did get those. And there isn't a point, like, when they're, like, swimming in the lake, and it, like, zooms out, like, into the control room, and it shows, like, they're, like, monitoring, like, the heartbeat and, stuff. I paused on that and tried to find if they had their names on that anywhere, and I couldn't find it. So I tried. I tried to get the rest of them.
We did learn there were a couple of other people that came in and out of their little control room. Lynn is this, I think she worked in the chemical department.
Yeah, she's Kim. Always upholds her end,
Yeah.
They were behind the hair dye.
Yes.
Dumb blonde, very artistic.
Yep. And Daniel Truman, who's the guard, and he doesn't really seem to like any of the stuff that's going on. It seems to bother him.
Yeah, he's new. He's not used to it.
Yeah.
All the betting and
yeah,
joking around and stuff. It's like, it's just guys blowing off steam.
Yeah. Yeah, he's not a fan.
The only one that's not in the betting pool.
Yeah. I feel like Lynn doesn't want to show him that she's in the betting pool.
Until like that last second, he's like, last one's in. And she's like, here you go. Okay.
And we learned that maintenance actually won.
Yeah.
Pool.
Maintenance and Ronald the intern.
Yes.
I had to split it with him.
Poor Ronald the intern. He doesn't know what he's getting into when he goes to work there.
No, as far as his last thing we see of him is he's on the screens.
Yes.
When it's showing all the chaos, which the script itself says chaos on every screen. And I love how that was like the biggest problem with that movie is then having to follow through with that. And they made it work though.
They did.
But on one of the screens, you see Ronald the intern just like in a room with like a piece of paper, and he's like writing like notes on it, like help me, and and then that's really all you see from him.
And Hadley is he's so obsessed with the merman. He wants the merman to get picked.
Mm-hmm.
He wants to see a merman. I'm not sure he'd agree with that now.
No.
However, that's what he really wants. And people even question him, is that even possible? He's like, yes, I've talked to...
And it was somebody, it was one of the people put in a bet. We don't know what they bet on. Yeah. He gives it to Sitterson. So he goes, I don't think we even have one of those. And he was like, no, zoology said that we do.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. Zoology. We're going to get to those in a few minutes.
Oh, yeah. But then, before bets, I want to talk, you mentioned the Harbinger, Mordecai. Morty baby. That whole scene where Mordecai calls Hadley and Sitterson, and they put him on speakerphone. I can't handle it. I was just laughing so hard. This is where I said, like, Bradley Whitford is a comedic treasure.
Yes.
This is where he really can come through. Is his just like, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't. Yeah, you're off now. And then they're sitting there listening to him and just cracking up, laughing. I'm on speakerphone again. And you just seeing him cracking up.
Yeah.
Because there's like some really good actual like dark foreshadowing, foreboding things that Mordecai is saying. But then they balance it so well with the joke of the scene of him on speakerphone. Yeah. And this whole like, the lambs have been led to slaughter and they're, am I on speakerphone? Like just the whole like, it's
the whole thing
perfectly
over and
done.
Over. He just had all these ridiculous things that he just kept, reading off,
Yeah.
The fool, don't take this lightly, boy. It wasn't all by your numbers. The fool nearly derailed the invocation with his insolence. Who talks like that?
That's great.
The ancient ones see everything and they will not be. I'm still on speakerphone, aren't I?
Yeah.
It's just... Oh my God, Mordecai, I can't believe it. It did it again. Morty, what happens next? Those are just a few of the gems that you're missing if you haven't seen this movie. It's just, it's great.
That whole scene, the speakerphone bit kills me. And it's mainly Whitford that... It just really runs that one for me. Just his reactions, because it's all because you just hear Mordecai's voice, but then it's the face acting and the holding back laughter, and Whitford kills me.
The whole thing, it's just such a comic element. Again, we're doing a few lighter type movies since I'm doing The Handmaid's Tale.
You're busy talking about Bradley Whitford in a much darker role in another podcast.
I am.
So, you have to...
But it's interesting because when we picked this one, I'm thinking, oh, that's kind of scary. And then I got into it and I'm like, oh no, this is exactly what we wanted, what we talked about doing.
Which another thing with Bradley Whitford and the connection of Handmaid's Tale is when this movie first starts, what conversation is he having with Sitterson?
It's about his wife and babies.
About his wife, talking about fertility, and they're going through all these fertility treatments and not sure if his wife can even have a baby. It was real interesting to find those connections and be like, how funny is it that we're going back and watching him have this conversation in this movie?
Oh yes, Commandalorians. I mean, and there are moments where he's clever on Handmaid's Tale. And I won't give anything away, but there are moments where he's kind of a little comedic, but very clever. And so, yeah.
Yeah. So the bets are in. We're going to talk about that. Yeah, all of the people in the departments betting on what force will be chosen to bring upon the doom of the group. Mm-hmm. Hadley's the merman guy. Mm-hmm. It's just where he's at, like you said. Maintenance picks the same thing every year, which we find out is the Buckners, and they finally won this year. And then somebody picked something that Sitterson didn't think they had. Zoology said, no. There is. The director is actually mentioned in this scene. Because they ask, does the director know what you guys are up to down here with all this? It's like, the director doesn't need to know.
Right.
It's not important. And I love how that was it.
They just dismiss it.
I had forgotten that the director was brought up this early.
Yeah.
And so I was like, that's cool, which I did, again, in the behind-the-scenes stuff, Drew Goddard was talking about, they had always originally intended for the director to be a man.
Yes,
until they actually got to the casting, decisions. And then it was like, it can't be anybody else. He kind of was on record as like, if we don't get Sigourney Weaver, we might as well just not make the movie because she's perfect.
Do you know who they wanted? Like one of the people they really wanted in the role when they were considering it to be a man?
Mm-mm.
Bruce Campbell.
That's right. Yeah, that would make a lot of sense with all the Evil Dead connections and stuff. Yeah, I could see that.
Because they are big. This movie is big on trying to connect the dots of things.
That would have been great too, but...
Yeah. That RV, the Rambler, is very much what you would see in The Hills Have Eyes. There were a lot of connections in this film.
Oh, yeah.
To things.
Yeah, but I'm glad that they went with Sigourney Weaver.
She was perfectly splendid walking out.
She's amazing. And I mean, she is the perfect choice for just this genre. I mean, she is the way that Jamie Lee Curtis is the queen when you think of slasher horror, when you think of sci-fi horror. Who's the freaking queen?
Sigourney Weaver.
You know, like
it's not disputed.
Yeah.
It can't be disputed.
So it's awesome that they have it. And again, the behind the scenes of watching her interact with everybody on set is because, you know, Goddard was talking about how he was so happy to have somebody with her stature on set, but she would like talk with the extras and hang out. She was just one of the family, and she was having the biggest, most fun time of her life on set. She would like freak out, like in a good way. Like every day she'd come on set and be like, oh my God, is the werewolf going to be here? I want a picture with the werewolf. I want to meet the werewolf. I want to hang out with the werewolf. She was so obsessed with the werewolf. And
but that's great. I mean, because she's been in so many different roles that she can come back and enjoy being in this movie, because she wasn't in it a lot.
No,
her voice was in it, and then it was a quick, like more almost a cameo type thing, but a little bit longer than cameo. And it was great. I think she was the perfect choice for this.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, like you said, it's a small enough, quick role for her to be able to come in, shoot for a few days, and be gone, and it's not a big time constraint.
Yeah.
But it fits her so well.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I definitely enjoyed that. What else do you have on the dynamic duo?
Oh, man. Whenever Jules is dancing in the cabin, and then it cuts to Hadley and Citizen doing their little hip dance, watching on this. That gives me life. That's life right there. That's what life is all about, is Hadley and Citizen just doing a little dance, a little bop.
Oh, goodness.
That's the meaning of life. That's
your early birthday present, Pake.
Yeah. Can I just get a gif of Bradley Whitford? Oh my God, yeah. It's like, just give me Richard Jenkins and Bradley Whitford just doing a little hip jive on a gif on loop for a couple hours. That's all I need.
Oh my goodness.
But yeah, it's great. Yeah, the cellar door, like I said, bursts open. I guess that's like one of the last things that the two of them are able to intervene with and do. Is he says we do everything we can to get them into the cellar, and then after that, they make the choices.
Yep.
And I like that. And then, the cellar, they go down and there's all this stuff. And I have notes later where I will.
Oh my gosh, I have so many notes.
Talk about all of that.
All the different things.
Then it gets serious, though, when Jules dies, and then we have them both. This we offer in humility and fear for the blessed peace of your eternal slumber, as it ever was.
My goodness.
They
sounds like
you take from it. Yeah. I mean, they make these sacrifices regularly through this system and the ritual to appease the ancient ones, so that they remain in slumber, don't rise, and destroy the earth. It's basic, but it works.
And it's an annual sacrifice.
Yeah.
And it's a bunch of different locations, and one of the locations has to succeed.
Yeah, and usually Japan always comes through.
Yeah, no, those little girls in that classroom.
Not this year. Yeah.
They took care of that.
How hard is it to kill 9-year-olds? I'll get Citizen with Richard Jenkins just looking at the screen with all these little 9-year-old Japanese girls. Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. It's great.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I have notes about that too, about the actual, the other rituals and what they kind of look like. And
yeah.
But everyone has failed except, the U.S. is the last one standing, and you just get the sense that Citizen and Hadley are not really that worried. They're just going to go and do it, thinking, I can press a button here, I can, change the electric current there, it's going to make it work, everything's going to be fine. Don't worry, the last time, there was a malfunction, it was 1998? Yeah, I think they said, yeah.
Yeah, the only other note that I have about them is just their demises.
Oh, that was sad.
Hadley finally got to meet his merman.
Yes.
A little up close and personal, more than he wanted, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But the practical effects of the blood spraying out of the blowhole and stuff
was great.
Was awesome.
It was awesome.
It was one of those, they talked about, they thought about doing CG and stuff, and then Drew Goddard made it a point that he originally wanted everything in this movie to be practical.
You could never.
He did not want to use.
You could never have done the elevator bloodbath.
He didn't want to use CGI at first, but then what actually ended up happening is they had a team of 60 sculptors and prosthetic people and stuff making all of these costumes and designs and all of this for all the creatures and monsters. And then the place that they ended up filming all these scenes in was bigger than they thought it was going to be. And they had a lot more empty space and they needed more to fill it, but they ran out of time and couldn't build more prosthetics and costumes. So then they had to CGI in the snake and the wraiths and everything else.
Oh, goodness. Goodness.
But they went with as much practical as they possibly could.
Mm-hmm. They were, they were.
Again, if you know us, that's what we want. That's what works.
We're down with the practical effects, not so much with the CGI. There were some CGI moments that I was kind of like, no. But then we got the merman blowholes, and I forgot.
Does the CGI hold up 100% in this movie?
No.
No. Do I care?
No,
because it's still just tasty. So I'm okay with it. Like
the merman alone. The merman alone redeems any CGI issue. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, so...
For sure. And then Sitterson goes out and, I guess, pretty poetic way, if you think about it, and be just stabbed by Dana.
Yeah. Kind of an accident.
Yeah.
Just coming around the corner at the wrong time. Yeah. They were gone. Poor human gets eaten. At least that's what it seemed like. He got ripped apart.
Well, he was... Yeah, the Scarecrow men came in.
Yes.
They were ripping him apart, but then he undid a grenade and blew himself up.
Yes. Which you would do if you were in that situation. Yeah. And I think the snake took Lynn.
Lynn was picked up by the Kraken. There was a big old tentacle that came through the ceiling and grabbed her.
Oh, yes, that's right. Yeah, so sad. She was the only one who, I don't know, I kind of liked her. I forgot that she didn't survive. I forgot, because I only saw it one time. Nobody survived.
Not even just the people in this movie, but nobody.
No one.
In general.
Over. Doors closed. Mic drop. It's over.
Yeah, and people have talked about, sequels and stuff for this movie.
Oh, no. And leave it alone. Please.
How?
Oh, no.
The way that this one ended, how?
Yeah. No. There's no sequel. No. Unless there's some random... Yeah, no. I kind of think Kronos coming out of the ground at the end.
Yeah. I mean, you could go back and do a prequel, but then you know that it's going to work out and stuff, and it's just not No, just don't touch it.
No, leave it alone.
Yep. But yeah. So that's all the notes I have about the lab, but I do have a lot of notes, I guess. Maybe not a lot, I'll see what I have. About, the system and stuff itself that I probably have already talked about. Mm-hmm. Let's see, the opening credits... foreshadowing the whole sacrifice plot, I thought was really cool.
Yes, definitely.
The person who was at Dana's apartment whenever they left, the whole nest is empty. We're right on time. It was really creepy.
Yes.
But then I'm guessing that's how they got in and did the hair dye and all that kind of stuff, is they do have people on the outside that are helping set things up beforehand.
Yeah.
Yeah, I talked about the hawk. Let's see, the zombified pain-worshipping backwoods idiots, but there are zombified pain-worshipping backwoods idiots.
Oh, goodness. Oh,
yeah,
God.
Japan. Japan is the only other country running with them. Kiko seemed to be doing pretty good for a little bit, and then not so much because she was defeated by the power of friendship, and now her soul is in this happy little frog.
Well, and that ritual was kind of a reference to The Ring, or Ringu, which is the Japanese movie there. Because there were these tie-ins in the different locations that we saw. Like Buenos Aires, the ritual there was actually kind of a reference to King Kong. Which I kind of figured that out before I learned it. The ritual in Stockholm is a reference to John Carpenter's The Thing. That's cool. And Madrid's reference was Dracula. So I thought those were clever. And again, they're trying to appease these ancient ones who live underground. Scary.
Yeah. And so as Marty and Dana go underground in the elevator, we start seeing all the fun stuff.
Oh.
First one we see is the werewolf. We get the sugar plum fairy. Which is a lot of fun. We get Hell Lord or Fornicus.
Fornicus, the Lord of Pain.
And bondage. Lord of bondage. And yeah.
He didn't have pins in his head, but he reminded me so much of Pinhead, the Cenobite.
I mean, that's what it was. It's, I mean, with his little like puzzle ball, it's a Hellraiser reference. That's what, there's a lot of the characters, like monsters and stuff in this movie that are references and characters, or, references and homages to other things, and I will talk about all that later.
Excellent. Yeah, well, Fornicus I thought it was interesting, her seeing Dana kind of look at him and he looked at her. It was just really...
I loved that scene because she's like freaking out is not really the right term, but I mean, she's screaming, banging on that. She's just frustrated, and
she doesn't know what to do.
Now that she realizes everything that's going on, and she's just letting it out, and there's that cold, dead, emotionless stare as he just watches. I thought that was incredible. I ended up looking up that actor because I was like, who is that? He looked kind of familiar, but no, not really. He's just like a stunt,
stunt guy.
Or not even stunts necessarily, but just kind of your prosthetic, just stand there and do character thing. But man, he was awesome. Just really cool.
Yeah. And we see him skulking about after that, walking around in different places.
Now, I do think it seemed like a really, 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 really bad idea to have just a system purge button out in the open like that. Yeah, I don't know why they would do that.
You wouldn't do that. I can't imagine a time where you would want that.
Yeah. Maybe there would be a reason for it, but you don't want it so easily accessible and easy to push and just right out in the open. No,
and Dana was ready to start the party. Mm-hmm. And that's what we got.
Yeah. But the system purge itself was just wonderful. Oh, it's so good. You get a lot of, and then the chaos on every screen was a lot of fun. You get the dolls tying people up and setting them on fire.
Yes.
You know what reference those people were, right?
Yes, I do, and it's very creepy.
Again, I'll talk about that. Yeah, we get some puking zombie monsters. The Sugar Plum Fairy just dancing around in the blood and gore. It was great. Great stuff. It
really was. And you could start to look at what they saw in that basement and what the monsters were.
Yeah.
Because you could connect some of them. Like when you saw Fornicus and he was holding that box that was a sphere, you could look at that and be like, yeah, that Kurt was playing with that.
Yep. There's a lot of things that they almost picked that we see. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
But yeah, when they're down with the director and the Ancient Ones are right below them, and you see, they're seeing the statue things that fill up with blood of themselves, the whore, the athlete, the scholar, the fool, and the virgin. And it's like the symbol that sits there with the 5 points. You notice that Sitterson was wearing a necklace with that same thing. And
yes, I did notice that.
After Jules died, which I thought was really cool. He seems to be very
devout
into this as far as the cause. And yeah, I think that's about it. Other than, Patience Buckner herself got to take out the director in the end, which is kind of cool.
That was cool. I liked that. I'm like, yes, please shut this shit down.
Yeah, we see her go down the elevator. Yeah, like she was like the last one out of the elevator, and she just like knew where she was going, just made her way.
Yeah, they were pawns just like the the people. I mean, they were captured and put in these boxes. So,
yeah. Do you have anything else? All that stuff.
You know what? No, I don't. I am ready if you are to talk about creepy, scary monsters.
All right.
Why don't we start with a couple of the rules that we learn? We learn that they have to make a choice of their own free will. Otherwise, the system doesn't work. We know that the Harbinger is there, the creepy old fuck guy, basically, that isn't wearing a sign, but basically is like, you're gonna die. It's part of the system.
Yeah, it's part of the system. You gotta make them choose that, too. Yeah.
And they rig the game. We talked about that, too. And the Ancient Ones, it's human sacrifice once a year. When Dana and Marty go in the elevator, we get to see glimpses of some of these creepy creatures. And some of them are written on the whiteboard, and some of them are not. And at one point, I know I believe that it was Hadley that was explaining to the woman, well, I put zombie there, and he said no, but did you put zombie redneck torture family? Because that is a different thing than zombies.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of really creepy, strange things. Peg, I know you have a list. So
I have the list.
So let's just start going down through that list.
All right, so I will start with the monsters that are on the whiteboard.
Okay.
I will go through the entire whiteboard.
Okay.
Which is werewolf, which we very much see.
Yes.
Alien beast, mutants, wraiths, zombies, reptilius, clowns, which we get to see the clown.
Yeah, that clown
an homage
was creepy.
to it.
Yeah.
Witches, sexy witches. I don't know if we see those necessarily, but
I don't remember them.
There's demons, Hell Lord, which is
Fornicus,
Lord of Bondage and Pain, a reference to Hellraiser, of course.
Yes.
We get Angry Molesting Tree, which is a reference to Evil Dead.
Yes.
With the branches. We get Giant Snake, which we saw.
Was a cobra. Yeah.
Deadites, another Evil Dead reference. We get Kevin, which is not seen. I did some digging on who the hell is Kevin. And it's just kind of supposed to be like a basic, normal human guy, unsuspecting, the serial killer kind of thing. But it also could be a reference to the character of Kevin in Sin City. He is described that same way in the novelization.
Yes.
Or you could think of the movie, We Need to Talk About Kevin, which is just kind of this unsuspecting young guy that has something a little off with him. So there's...
Yeah, they said one of them, I think it was Goddard, said, a sweet-looking guy who seemed like he might work at Best Buy until he dismembers people.
Yeah.
I think that is accurate.
So that is Kevin. We get Mummy, the Bride, the Scarecrow Folk, who takes out Truman, Snowman, gotta be a Jack Frost reference.
Yes.
Dragon Bat, the Vampires, Dismemberment Goblins, which is kind of like a Ghoulies reference, probably. And then
my goodness, Ghoulies.
We also get to see them in some of the screens just driving around on golf carts, causing mayhem, running people over. It's all kinds of wildness.
Yes.
The Sugar Plum Fairy, which is most likely a reference to the Tooth Fairy.
Yes.
From, what is it, Darkness Falls? No,
yes, Darkness Falls.
Darkness Falls. We get Merman, of course, Hadley's favorite.
Yes.
The Reanimated, which is also different from zombies and zombie redneck torture family for some reason.
I feel like it's probably a nod to the Reanimator.
Yeah, true. Unicorn,
which we saw.
We definitely got, and that was awesome. The Huron, which is like Native American scalper kind of thing. Sasquatch / Wendigo / Yeti, which I don't know why Wendigo is technically in with Sasquatch and Yeti.
Me either.
It depends on the lore.
Yeah.
But it can be a very different thing, but I guess in some cases. Yeah, it's interesting. The Dolls, which we did see, I mentioned them. Yes. That is a reference to the Strangers.
Oh, goodness.
The Doctors, which we saw a little bit of on a screen, and they are creepy as hell.
Oh my god, yeah. No one wants to be in the same room with them.
No. And then, of course, Zombie Redneck Torture Family, which is our beloved Buckners.
Yes.
Which are kind of a joint, reference to like The Hills Have Eyes and like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Yes. We get Jack-o'-lantern, Giant, and then Twins, which we see them in the elevator boxes and stuff. It's a reference to The Shining.
Yes.
But then there are lots of other creatures that are either seen during the System Purge or are not seen, but are mentioned in the novelization, or there were mock-ups and stuff made for them. They were in deleted scenes. There was stuff filmed that they were cut. And I have a big list of that. So I'll just go through them quickly. We also have, the ancient ones are seen. Yes. Technically, you can consider them, a monster in this movie. There was a DLC tie-in that was supposed to happen for the game Left 4 Dead that ended up getting canceled and not happening. But there are some Left 4 Dead characters. The Boomer, the Witch, Smoker, Tank, Charger, and Hunter all were in this.
Oh, goodness.
Then again, I mentioned the unicorn. I don't know why that's in this list again, but we get the giant ape, the kraken, reaver, dogs, the blob, evil twins, floating head, cyclops, face peeler, giant ant, garden gnome, creeping shadow, killer birds, a balding menace, giant deer, phantom, giant woman, ferrets. Apparently, they had killer ferrets.
Willow would have been a great addition to that movie.
Right.
Yeah.
Killer toad, the Ku Klux Klan.
Yep.
Which, yeah, definite. Biggest monsters of them all.
Yes.
Giant cat, insects, killer tarantula, plant creature, the scorpion robot. That thing was cool.
Was that the thing with the saw blade?
Yeah.
That thing? Yeah.
Man. Tarp Man, the Suffocators, a Cthulhu creature, the Savage with a Hatchet, which I think is supposed to be kind of the Huron, another name for that maybe.
Yeah.
Owls, a floating leech, two-headed monster, troll, giant lizard, giant alligator, giant centipede, which we do see him fly out of the elevator at one of the guys, slimy horned cloak creature, and then finally Kiko, aka the Japanese floating girl, Japanese horror like The Ring and things like that, as a reference there.
Oh,
but then I do have another fun list if you don't, unless you have some more stuff to add.
I am down for you to go ahead and give us the fun list.
And so this fun list here is when they go down into the cellar, here's as much as I could find the full list of all of the items that are in the cellar and which monster they connect to and what they could have chosen with each of these things. So, first is the short list of that, which are the confirmed ones through Drew Goddard, through behind-the-scenes things, through what we see in the movie, which, of course, Patience Buckner's diary, summoned the Buckners. The conch shell would have summoned the merman.
Yep.
So close, Hadley, so close.
Yeah.
He had the conch in his hands.
Yes.
The puzzle sphere, of course, was for Fornicus.
Yes.
The necklace on the wedding dress that Jules had was for the bride. The music box that Holden was playing with was the Sugar Plum Fairy.
Yes.
The fortune teller machine that I think Kurt looks at for a little bit is the clowns.
Ugh.
There was a unicorn tapestry that would have been for the unicorn. There is an amulet for the werewolf. And then the film strips that Marty is looking for were connected to Kevin. So we almost got Kevin.
Oh, goodness.
And then here's the longer list of ones that are not completely confirmed, but through sleuths and big fans of the movie have gone through and just been like, this is most likely what these all would have gone to. So I speak not for Drew Goddard here, but for the big fans to say. So I'll go through these quick because there's a little bit, but there's a hatchet or a gnome statue. Both of those could have been for the garden gnome boy. There's a noose, which would be for the KKK. The owl feather or owl statue for the giant owls. There was a millipede fossil for the giant millipede. Dismembered children's toys for the dismemberment goblins. Drums for the Huron. A buzzsaw for the killer robot. There was a pair of small stuffed animals for the twins. An urn for the wraith. Alligator hand necklace for the alligator. Reptile claw for the reptilius. A plastic bag for the suffocator, the doll mask for the dolls, a bottle of blood for the vampires, a jar preserved octopus tentacle, would have been for the kraken, a jar of tree sap for the angry molesting tree, collection of vials and tonics in a chest alongside a gas mask and tonics for the mutants, a satanic Bible or dark scriptures for the demons, an alien egg, alien beast, snake skin for the giant snake, a shield for the creature with the patterned segments of armor on its head that is seen quickly, a scarecrow or pitchfork for the scarecrow folk. There's a cat statue and cat toys for the giant cat. A Necronomicon for the Deadites. Maybe the Cthulhu creature.
Oh, boy.
Sledgehammer for the man in the transparent tarp. A bat tooth for the dragon bat. Broken meteorite for the blob. Surgical tools for the doctors. Lizard skin and fossils for the giant lizard. Spider web for the tarantula. Tarot cards, crystals, and a love potion for the sexy witches, perhaps.
All right, I would say, yeah.
A book of shadows for the witches. A minotaur horn for a minotaur. Egyptian dagger or burial item for the mummy. Jack-o'-lantern decorations for the jack-o'-lanterns. A snow globe for the snowman. Deer antlers for a giant deer. biohazard contents for zombies, and finally voodoo dolls for the reanimated.
Oh, goodness. That's quite a list.
Yeah.
Oh, my.
So I knew this was going to be a long one because I love talking this movie. And there's a lot in it to look into. But I do think at that point, that's all the notes I do have.
Oh my goodness, are you serious?
Other than quotes, that's it. I have run my time.
Let's see. No, you've taken, you know what? You talked about all the ones that I had. We talked already about the killing order. Like, it can be arbitrary as long as the whore dies first and the virgin dies last, or they can survive. That's pretty much all I have, because you've named every single one that I had on my list of the possible choices to die. So, yeah, I feel like we have wrapped that up very nicely.
Well, with that, then, I guess it's your turn to have a little speaking time and have fun, because I know you brought some extra fun production notes, and now I can shut up for a little while.
Okay, so the filmmakers deliberately shot the opening to confuse the audience. They wanted them to come in and think they were watching the wrong movie. I'm like, yeah, kind of. It was kind of different.
Yeah, I do love how, like, the quick horror, like, title, like, right over just the most monotonous of conversations.
Yeah.
It is really funny.
I love that. We already talked about the thermal coffee mug / bong. Okay, so here was an interesting tidbit. 4 of the characters jumped into the water, all 4 except Marty. The reason they didn't have Marty jump in the water is because Fran Kranz is actually in as good, if not better shape than Jesse Williams and Chris Hemsworth, and they didn't want to hinder his character as this, like, stoner layabout guy.
Yeah.
I thought that was really funny.
Mm-hmm.
I dug into a little bit about the timing and Chris Hemsworth in the movies, and it seems MGM saw the dailies, they saw the scenes of Chris Hemsworth talking to his friends before he takes off on the motorcycle and hits the force field. He was signed on based on that to appear in Red Dawn, and then 2 days later he was chosen to play Thor.
Wow.
Yeah, but both Cabin in the Woods and Red Dawn were delayed for several years because MGM went through bankruptcy, and they were both released a year or 2 after Thor. And Goddard said he knew in that scene that Hemsworth was going to be a big star.
Yeah.
Let's see. The film was shelved due to MGM's bankruptcy, but Lionsgate saw the film and picked it up. They were so behind the film that they had to reconvince Goddard and his partners that it was a good movie and needed to be released. The scene that tested the highest with the audience was the merman scene, which makes me laugh.
Oh, come on.
We talked a little bit about Kevin already. Let's see. The film won 5 Fright Meter Awards. I already talked about the characters and the camper, the Rambler, being the reference to The Hills Have Eyes. None of the scenes with Jules and Kurt in the woods were shot outdoors. The big hand that you see coming out, I already mentioned this, coming out and destroying the cabin in the final shot is the Greek Titan god Kronos. And I already gave the body count, which was just under 7 billion. So that is all I have, because we talked about so much of this while we were talking about the movie that's pretty much everything.
Yeah, awesome.
So, yeah. So I feel like we have to get on to quotes now.
All right, if we have to.
We do, and I feel like you're going to have to talk, because most of mine I have already said.
We've kind of gone over, we've mentioned a lot of mine too.
Yeah.
But I'll go through mine. I have like 5. And are all of them except for one Marty? Yes.
Not a surprise.
So, but the first one is the not Marty one. We see kind of at the beginning, because again, they kind of go in order of the movie. I loved the Kurt and Jules in Dana's apartment, where he's looking at the books of Dana's study books, and he goes, "Who gave you these? Who taught you about these?" And so the way they play together so well, because then she looks at him and goes, "I learned it from you, okay? I learned it from watching you."
And you know what that's an homage to?
I recognize it.
Yeah, a drinking and drug commercial.
Yeah,
where the parent is talking to the kid, And the kid responds with, I learned it from watching you.
Yes.
And I was like,
it was a big like PSA kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so I love that they have that kind of really like that wit and humor and rapport together. It was really funny.
Me too.
But yeah, the rest of them are just Marty moments that are great. And you've mentioned like all of them except for one, but I'll go back through them again real quick. Is my favorite Marty lines. I said, I don't think it knows about money. I think it's barter gas. The other one is when they're playing Truth or Dare, and the kind of because Marty says, I dare you to make out with, and Kurt says, please say Dana, please say Dana, please say Dana. Marty says, that moose over there.
It's not
where Dana says, Marty, have you ever seen a moose before? He goes, whatever that mysterious beast is. To where Kurt goes, that's a wolf. And Holden goes, it's clearly a wolf.
Yeah. Not in Marty's world. Not in Marty's world.
I love that. The other one is Marty and Dana, and he goes, puppeteers. She goes, puppeteers? He goes, Pop-Tarts?
Yes.
You said Pop-Tarts? You have Pop-Tarts?
Yeah. He's always hungry.
Yes. And then, of course, the last one you mentioned said, yeah, I had to dismember that guy with a trowel. What have you been up to?
Yes.
So
I had one other one. I don't think we talked about the zombie arm, but I don't think I said this one. But after Marty and Dana are escaping the elevator, thanks to one of the Buckner's appendages, Marty looks down and says, good work, zombie arm. Where he had mentioned it earlier, like the zombie arm being in the way. Well, it came back. So I did give the quote about I call her lab coat girl, is protesting that she also had zombies in the pool. And Citizen's response is, yes, she did. You had zombies, but this is zombie redneck torture family. See, they're entirely separate species, like the difference between an elephant and an elephant seal. And I loved that.
Yeah.
But that's really all I have. Do you have any others? Or are we through the quotes?
That's it.
Oh my goodness.
Ugh.
You
this
know
next
what that
part
means?
I was not prepared for. I don't even have one. So it's going to have to come off the top of my head. And I can't just rate it 11 and get it over with, can I?
No, you can't. Someone here has to be the voice of reason and keep things in the realm of what sounds fair and objective. So I feel like I have to be the voice of reason and keep you honest with your ranking. Would you like me to go first? Will that make you feel a little bit better?
It's 10.9.
No, Pake. The scale is from 1 to 10. 10 being the highest. Only one time has a movie ever gotten a 10, and that was Rima. I think actually she gave Jaws an 11.
Yeah. See, so it can be done.
No, it can't. Not when you're the co-host.
Oh, man.
It can't be done. So I guess maybe I need to go first to just kind of at least make you feel a little bit better or make it worse for you. I don't know. Either way, we'll figure it out. So I really love this movie. I don't look at the CGI failures. Well, they weren't really failures, but the CGI issues. I think it's just like any other movie that ages over time. It's just not going to be as pretty with the CGI. So, but I'm not really going to hold a lot of that against it. So, in the grand scheme of things, I came out with an 8.5. Oh,
man. Why so low? How could you do this? No, I'm kidding.
I guess our days of matching scores are over. Because I can't Pake. Because I think I gave A Quiet Place like a 9.4. And I can't give this that score.
I know.
You might be able to talk me into adding a few points. But no. I can't. I know you might as well rip the Band-Aid off and just let it out. You'll feel better.
I mean, it's going to be so biased because like this is one of those, it's the comedy horror that is right up my alley. If you've listened to this podcast long enough, and I know you have been hosting it with me long enough to know me by it now.
I do.
That this is my wheelhouse. These are my favorite movies. So these are going to be the ones that end up on the top.
It's in the world of cooties. It's in the world of those other movies. Yes, I know. Do I need to steer us away from those in the future? So
Absolutely not. Ever, ever. In fact, we're only doing comedy horror movies from now on. That's what it is. Run for your LOLs. That's what we're doing.
No.
No.
That's a very clever title, but that is not this podcast.
No. I can't let myself go lower than a 9.5.
Oh my goodness.
I can't. It's Cabin in the freaking Woods. I can't.
Oh my goodness, Pake. Oh goodness.
Like, that's me giving it the lowest score that I can.
I can't. I don't know if I have a response to that. I think that I am speechless now. I don't really know what to say.
I mean, you should know, like I said, the comedy horror thing, the fact that I said Tucker and Dale versus Evil, I consider a classic already. This one I consider, it's just, there's something about,
Yes. Okay. It's your ranking. You get to pick what you want.
That's right.
And you did. And we're not always going to agree. And this is one of those instances where I was a bit lower than you. Mm-hmm. And that's totally fine.
You're just going to have to watch it 17 more times.
No, probably not.
In the next 2 days.
No. Probably not, Pake. I don't think I can.
Okay, only 3 times.
Uh-huh.
No.
Oh, boy. It's that feedback phone.
See what other people have to say. And hopefully they're right and think it's as awesome as I do.
Well, I didn't say it wasn't awesome.
Oh, I know. You love it. But they gotta absolutely love it too.
Uh-huh.
I'm kidding.
Okay. You better get that, Pig.
All right. All right. This week we do have a little bit of feedback here. I'm excited to get into some fun stuff. The first one is going to be a response from our good friend Derek based off of what I said during the shout-outs and stuff last week on our Snakes on a Plane episode. And Daphne, I'm going to let you read it because why not?
Of course you are. So our good friend Derek had the following to say. Don't worry, Pake. I wouldn't hold it against you if you don't watch Clone Wars. Our co-host Chris has never seen any of the animated Star Wars shows either. Yes,
because I mentioned, because they're covering the Bad Batch, and I'll talk about that when we do shout-outs. But and I was like, man, I want to watch that, but I have not watched all the other stuff. And I'm like kind of a completionist in that regard. I love Star Wars, but the animated series are stuff that I haven't dove into completely yet. I've watched some of the Clone Wars, but it's a lot. But yeah, so as he was responding to me saying that last week, like one of their co-hosts hasn't seen any of it. So, and he's covering it with them. So that's cool.
That is pretty cool.
I'm still completionist enough. I think I'm going to have to, but
hey, I watch Mandalorian. That is as far as I'm going. Yeah, I was influenced by this friend group I have to watch Mandalorian. And I do enjoy it.
This friend group, they sound really awesome.
They really are. You might know them.
Maybe. We'll get into our feedback from this week with Cabin in the Woods. And this first one comes from our friend Jerry. And he just says, I want to know who Kevin is. No, he doesn't sing it in this song. He just says, I want to know who Kevin is. Well, after you've listened to this episode, Jerry, hopefully we have uncovered that mystery for you.
I hope so. I feel like we did. We did address some of our thoughts and some of the information that's available about Kevin. So if you have any other questions, Jerry, you can always reach out and we'll see if we might be able to dig up a little more information. Yeah. But that area where all the ancient ones are pretty destroyed now. So
yeah,
may not be able to find Kevin.
I'll tell you who Kevin is now, or where he is. Gone. Dead.
Buried under rubble. Like everyone else in the world.
Yes.
Of the Cabin in the Woods. The next one is from our good friend Kelly, who had this to say. One of my favorites. I really loved the twist and just felt like it was something new for the genre at the time. Started out like so many horror movies I watched as a teenager, but then took a turn that was so entertaining. It's great when a movie knows how to poke fun at itself and be smart about it. Looking forward to hearing your coverage on this.
Awesome.
Thanks, Kelly.
I fully agree. As you've listened to this episode at this point, you know, I just adore this movie so much for those same reasons. And so, yeah. And we have one more bit of feedback, and it, of course, is the amazing Steve Brown and his live Steving that has become oh so famous worldwide.
Yes, it definitely has. So let's hear what Steve had to say about Cabin in the Woods.
Well, hey, Pake and Daphne, this is Steve, and this is going to be for Cabin in the Woods. I haven't watched it in a while, but, you know, it's one of those movies that I've seen several times, so hopefully we'll get something new out of it, but we'll see. Hey, Fred, it's great to see Fred. Thor's in this? I totally forgot. But I love Fran Kranz. So great. He just checked to see if the door was locked and the window was rolled completely down. I love Fran Kranz. He's great. It never occurred to me until just now, till this watch, that they're driving an RV to stay at a cabin that's less than a day from where they're coming. Why do they need an RV? Am I on speakerphone? I love all the subtle little things that we're seeing that it's not until like repeat watches that you start to pick up on how controlled this whole environment is. I think what we're going to understand is even though everybody was handling different objects and had like even pushed buttons and done things like the little music box started, it wasn't until somebody actually spoke it that it chose the option. Zombie redneck torture family. Entirely different subspecies. Absolutely love Amy Acker. I took Latin in 10th and 11th grade, and no, it's not coming back. I mean, I'm away longer from my high school than he is, but why are they outside? Don't they have a room? He's got a husband bulge as Marty's going for a walk. So the Japanese successfully got rid of their curse. Okay, I knew I took a break for a little bit because it's over. I'm over 2 minutes. I'm sorry. They think they've done it, but they haven't. I kind of dismember that guy with the trowel. Yeah, the fool ended up being the most capable one of all. Oh man, Sigourney's voice before we ever see her come in is just amazing. And very long, and I know you guys are going to talk about this movie. I love it. Can't wait to hear you guys talk about it. All right, later.
Yay. Thank you, Steve. I love all of your feedback, but I am still really hung up on the fact that you pointed out that they took an RV to a cabin within a day's drive. As far as we know, this one is... Yeah, why do they need the RV if they're staying in the cabin? That's hilarious.
I know. And that RV reminded me, I think we may have even talked about this in the podcast, but I think that RV, it reminded me of like The Hills Have Eyes. Like they were in an RV like that. So
yeah, that's the reason the RV was in this movie, was just as an homage. But it's funny that Steve pointed that out, because now I'm like, oh yeah, that is kind of weird.
It doesn't make any sense. But it's harmless fun in this film, so.
Oh, yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much, Steve, Kelly, Jerry, Derek, for your feedback. We love when we get feedback from anybody and everybody. So please, listeners, send us some feedback, send us some love. We always love hearing from you in any form. And I will let you know how you can do that in any of those forms right now as I read my notes. No, I'm just kidding. I do it every week. I should have this memorized by now, right? But
well, this is episode 42.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, you probably should, but I'll forgive you.
But yeah, to submit any of your feedback for the movie we are talking about that week, or the movie we talked about this week or last week, or any other week, or movies you want to hear us talk about, you can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/runforyourlivespodcast. You can email us and send us voicemails, not meals, I don't know if you can feed us with your voice yet. You can email us or send us voicemails at runforyourlivespodcast@gmail.com. We are on Twitter at RFYL Podcast and Instagram at Run For Your Lives Podcast. But if you're enjoying the show, tell your friends, share the love. Just go to runforyourlivespodcast.com and you can get links to all of the social media pages, all of our podcast players. We're on Spotify. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Audible, Pandora, YouTube even. Keep those subscriber numbers going up and we can get our special vanity URL, which we are waiting for.
Yes.
More of you are subscribing and we really appreciate that. So let's keep that going. That's been cool.
Yeah. And you can also leave a review for us on Apple Podcasts. We'd love it if you'd give us a 5-star review.
Yes. 5 stars.
Leave a comment. Let us know how we're doing. We definitely would appreciate it.
Absolutely. And I'll go ahead and give a couple shout outs to other things going on in the podcast universe around us. I've said this how many weeks in a row now? Strange Indeed is coming up soon. Well, wait no more. Next week. So hopefully either on the day that you hear the next episode of Run for Your Lives or the day before that, Strange Indeed will be up with a new episode. We are jumping into the Apple TV series written, created by Stephen King based off of his book, Lisey's Story. And yeah, so that comes out today and on Apple TV. So if you have Apple TV, check that out and then check out Strange Indeed next week and let us know, what you think of it there and listen to our coverage over there. I'm excited to get back into the podcast realm with Rima and do something fun over there again. It's been a little bit.
You're now going to get to hear Peg twice a week instead of just once.
Yeah. Oh God, don't scare people away with that terrible news. No, I'm kidding. Oh God, we got to hear him talk more. No, but if you want to hear somebody that you'd want to hear 2 times a week, then Daphne is also doing her podcast, her other podcast right now as well. She's over on House Podcastica with Wendy and Jason covering The Handmaid's Tale, and they've just got a few episodes left of that. But I'm caught up, so I've been listening, and it's so good.
Thanks. I've really had a blast podcasting with Wendy and Jason, and I'm going to be bummed when it's over because it's just been something to look forward to. The show is so well done, and you really don't know what's going to happen from one week to the next. So it's just been really exciting to, get to hang with them and chat about the show every week. So I'm going to miss it when it's over.
Yeah. Like I mentioned earlier when Derek sent a little bit of feedback about Star Wars animated stuff. Yes, TV Podcast Industries with Derek and John and Chris. They are covering The Bad Batch. Still over there. What's going on? And then if you're also a fan of something else coming up on Disney Plus, Panels to Pixels with Mark and Steve will be back next week. I didn't even think about it till earlier today. It hit me holy crap, that is next week.
It is.
Loki. It's time for Loki. We're back to the Marvel series on Disney Plus, and I cannot wait. So if you are a huge Marvel nerd like I am and need some extra, podcast goodness to get through that when Loki comes out, then definitely check out Panels to Pixels. Well, they will be covering it there. And I'm sure TV Podcast Industries probably will as well. I don't have for sure on that, but
I'm pretty sure
they do all of the Marvel stuff. So
I would be really surprised if they weren't going to cover it. Yeah, I think Loki is coming out on Tuesday. I want to say. Yeah, Loki's coming out on late Tuesday night, or I know that we all got used to late night hangouts waiting for Captain and the Winter Soldier and WandaVision, but they've switched the days up on us, so it's going to be a different night of the week to be waiting.
Yes. 1 week early, so I think late Monday night and then or Tuesday.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Excited.
And then one more podcast shout out we have to do is our good friend Ben is launching his brand new podcast that he has been working on for a while, and I'm so excited. Me and Daphne will both be on it at different times in the future. I'm sure he's pulling all kinds of different guest hosts and stuff in, and it is called Wilhelm, where he is just talking about all kinds of movies. Every episode will be some kind of special topic, and I think the first episode will just be the top essential movies.
Yes.
must-watch movies. And, so just it's going, kicking it off big. Him and Jason, I believe, are doing that. And that episode is up now, today.
Yeah, today.
So look up Wilhelm from the Next Level Podcast Network and check that out. It's going to be a great podcast, and I'm excited for him to be finally launching that.
Me too. He's really passionate about movies, and he's been taking his time putting this together and building what he envisions for it to be. So I'm glad that it's going to be out there in the universe for everyone to get to listen to.
Yes.
Including us.
Oh, yeah. I'll be listening every week for sure. All right. And then finally, Daphne, why don't you tell everybody what's going on next week right here on Run for Your Lives?
Well, next week, we're discussing Dean Devlin's 2017 science fiction disaster film, Geostorm. The Lawson brothers navigate their contentious sibling relationship while attempting to fix a hacked satellite that's raining firenadoes, a deep freeze, and a mega tsunami down on Earth. Good times.
Oh, yeah. This one's an interesting one for sure.
It is. I can't wait for everyone to hear it. I forgot about this movie. I had only seen it once before we decided to cover it, and revisiting it brought up lots of different thoughts and opinions, and we have a really fun discussion about it. So if you've seen this movie, please be sure to send us some feedback, because we'd love to hear what you guys think.
Absolutely.
And now we've come to the end of another wonderful, fun episode. Thanks, everyone, for listening. I am Daphne.
And I'm Pake.
And if you have to run from a perfectly charming zombie redneck torture family who's destined to kill you and your friends to appease the Ancient Ones, you'd better run for your lives.
Bye-bye.